The DZOFilm Arles is one of my all-time favorite lenses. I've compared this lens to a lot of different lenses, but I keep coming back to these ones because of the image that they render. DZO released the Lustre primes earlier this year, and I was really interested to get these in and compare them to the Arles. Personally, I love warmer and softer tones in general, so I was very interested to see how these lenses performed. They seemed like a perfect set for me. There were a few interesting things that I found comparing these two lenses together though. I also made another video comparing the Vespids to the Sumeras and these two lenses. But in this video, we're gonna focus on these two lenses specifically. DZO did loan me these lenses, but they don't get to see the video before it goes live, and all these words are my own. Quick heads up here, all the footage in this video and all of my lens test videos are just log to 709. There's no other adjustments, maybe a little bit of exposure, but there is no like heavy grading on all these. So this is what the lenses actually look like. Starting with price and rental rates very quickly, the Arles 5 lens kit is $9,800 for a 5 lens kit. These rent for $50 per day per lens. So you would have to rent the entire set out 39 times to pay these lenses off. The Arles 4 lens Lustre kit is $10,799 and it rents on ShareGrid for $175 per lens per day. So if you were able to get a 4 lens rental, that would be $700 a day, and you would need to rent them out for 15 and a half days to pay these off. That was in Atlanta, so in my market, I'd probably get like $100 a day. So it would take me 27 days to pay off the 4 lens kit. Or if I got the 5 lens kit like I have here, it would take me 33.75 days to pay off the kit. Here's a table comparing the Arles to the Arles Lustres. It's pretty uneventful in comparison sake, but you can pause this and read them if you'd like to. One interesting spec to me was comparing the different apertures. My Lustres are labeled T14, but that is actually incorrect. These are actually T16 on the final production, like housed versions. The regular Arles are T14 though. Comparing these two lenses together, you can see a bit of an exposure difference. Comparing them at the same apertures, they're right in line with each other that you would expect. Before we get into flaring, I'd like to tell you about today's video sponsor, Artlist. Artlist has over 400,000 high quality assets available for you to use in your personal and commercial work. Artlist also has a new AI image and video generation tool. With their tools, you can create an image, upload an image, transform it, or turn that image into a video with prompts. Artlist makes it simple to create high quality images and videos. I find myself using AI in pre-production to get my ideas across to clients quickly, but if you like to use AI in your final deliverables, the Artlist license actually covers the AI generated images and videos for personal and commercial use. When it comes to music, their tools make it easy to find the exact song you need. Their filters make it easy to choose a genre and refine your results with mood keywords. You can narrow down the music by which instruments are used, if you want vocals or not, or adjusting the BPM. They also have tons of playlists to help give you some inspiration from other creators, moods, or types of videos. They also have a huge selection of LUTs, footage, and tools for your favorite editors to help speed up your edits. If you'd like to check it out, Artlist is offering 2 free months if you use the link in my description. Artlist has over 400,000 assets available and more are being constantly added, so you'll be sure to find exactly what you're looking for. Thank you, Artlist, for sponsoring this video. When it comes to flaring, this is where the Lustres really shine. The flares look different at different apertures, so let's take a look at the different apertures and how these flares actually look when you open up or stop down the lens. We can immediately see how much these Lustres actually flare, and I love that. We can also see how well controlled the Arles is if we compared the two. The Arles is a little more subtle and natural looking here, but the whole point of the Lustre Prime is to lean into the warm, creative flares here. While I love the flare of the Lustres, I think it could be a little bit overkill if you want this in every shot. They bloom really easy, and these lenses are beautiful, but I think if you're constantly having tons of warm flares all over, it could like lose the impact of the flares itself. So I went with using these lenses Put this down here. I went with using these lenses with a matte box, and this is my Tilta matte box. It's like the cheaper Arri LMB, but the often most overlooked part of a matte box is the matte part of the matte box. It really does help block out a lot of light hitting from the side and then completely blooming and washing out the image. It's really nice to be able to control your flares while using a matte box. It's really one of the only ways I've been using these. So if I want to control the flare a little more, I can. But if I want to take the matte box off and have a little bit more flares coming in from the side, or if I'm in like a studio environment like this where it's easier to control the lighting, then it's a little easier. But like you said, the 35 and the 100 have humongous front elements, and it's really easy for light to get down the barrel of these lenses and completely give you some pretty wild flares. I don't dislike the wild flares, but being able to control them if I want them or not with a matte box has been really the only way I've been using these lenses. Onto another big shift between the Arles and the Lusters is the color cast. There maybe isn't a color cast, but there's color differences between these two sets of lenses. And let's jump into some vector scopes and I will show you what I mean here. One thing to preface with these vector scope tests though, I've never had this problem with any other lenses before, but the flares on some of these lenses are so easy to flare. I was trying to show like what it looks like with no flare, with no flare, with like a little bit of a flare, and with like even a little bit more of a flare. Maybe not full flare, but like just the color differences in the image based on how much light is going down the front of this lens. So the 25mm was absolutely no flare. The 35mm had a little bit of flare. The 50 had a little bit less. The 75 had a little bit more. And the 100 had the most flaring out of all of them. This 100mm had the most flaring out of all of them. And it kind of comes down to, let me try to open the 75 too. It kind of comes down to how these lenses, like the front of them are made. This is the 75, and you can see there's like, the front element doesn't quite take up as much of the front of the lens, but the 100mm is all glass. Like the 35mm is also really easy to bloom because it's on my camera. The 35mm is just tons of glass, not as much as the 100, but more than the 75. The 25mm has a little bit smaller of a front element, so it's a little recessed, so it was easier to get a clean image out of this. The 50mm also has a little bit smaller of a front element, it's like flat. The 35 has a huge front element, and the 100, I absolutely love this lens. Like, not only is it tight so it flares like crazy, but even a little bit of light down the front of this lens like really flares. So I had a lot of fun using the 100. But you definitely need a matte box with the 100 if you don't want those flares. The Arles skews a little warmer in general, but the baseline look of all of the Lusters are a little bit cooler than the Arles. Ignoring the obvious flare difference here, I feel like the Arles Lustre has a little bit more distortion in the out of focus areas than the Arles has. I was really surprised to see these differences because I think like optically, they still have the same internal glass. This may come down to the difference in coating on the Lusters. The Lusters are supposed to have a more stylized look than the Arles, so personally I love that they're leaning into this a little bit more. In my testing, it's a slight difference. It's not huge, but the difference is there if you're really pixel peeping for it. Here are the minimum focus distances for the Lusters compared to the Arles. As you can see, no surprises here. When it comes to focus breathing with these lenses, they're both pretty well controlled, but to my eyes, there is the slightest little bit more focus breathing on the Lusters over the original Arles. My eyes may be playing tricks on me here though. Here is some test footage so that you can compare for yourself. You really have to look for it, but I feel like the difference is there slightly. Personally, I think both of these lenses are great, and if you didn't have these side by side, you would not be able to tell the difference. I couldn't wait to test out these Lustre primes. I feel like these lenses take all of the good characteristics of the regular Arles, and they just add a little bit more funk to them. Like sometimes it's a little bit more like the Bokeh, just slight differences. Sometimes they like ramp it up to 10 with like a cooler image, but with really warm flares. I absolutely love that they're leaning into like a creative look with these lenses. I would typically use these lenses with a matte box with a hard matte in the front just to control some of the spill that's coming into the front of these lenses if I didn't want a ton of lens flare. And I think with the Arles, like that's the reason I got this matte box, was to use it on these Arles and my Vespids. But with these Arles Lustres, I would say like it's almost mandatory to have a matte box with a hard matte in the front that you can help flag out some light with. That's like an interesting difference in accessories with these lenses. But other than that, they actually have a lot of similarities when it comes to like the technical specs of these lenses. Let me know what you guys think of these in the comments down below. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.